I'm Welcome23. You're joining me for Storyscape's Titanic, episode 17. I'm watching the death of hope, the death of vanity, the death of a dream. The great Titanic leans into the sea. I can see its vast propellers jutting above the waterline. No one speaks. We're all thinking it, though the end is near. The boiler rooms are either flooded or flooded by now. Charlie, if he's still alive, doesn't have much longer. I hope they didn't stay. My sister's voice is quiet. I'm not sure if she meant to say the words aloud. It takes me a moment to understand. The Rohannas, you mean? Lainey nods, never taking her eyes off the ship. She was so certain. Miss Rohanna, so sure that God would show them the path, but now I can't help but wonder. Maybe Mateo was right. Maybe God helps those who help themselves, or maybe God doesn't even care. No one can really know. We can only guess at why things happen, Helene. The rest is faith. I thought I had her faith, but I don't. Pulls her arms to her chest and shudders. Reach out to comfort her, but the gap between us is too wide. I let my arm drop. A startled voice breaks the night air. Thomas Andrews, calling over a megaphone for any lifeboats that are not full to return. Our lifeboat is so full that the gunwale is barely above the water surface. Waves lap over its edge. It's clear we cannot take more passengers. But in the darkness beyond us, where our other lifeboats are, I hear arguments. I cannot make out the words, but agitated voices rise and rise until a man shouts, "No!" followed by the silence. Megaphone blares again, and still no one answers. And I know those half-full lifeboats have no intention of returning to the Titanic. Please, someone help them. My yell travels across the water. I get no response, but I've no doubt they heard. None of the boats will return. Those people on the Titanic, they must save themselves, or perish. I can't imagine what they're going through. I think of those we left behind. Charlie, Mateo, James, and Zeta. My love. My heart shatters at the thought of her. What would their last moments be like? See the last moments aboard the Titanic. I imagine, first, Miss Rohanna, with her girls at her side, holding hands and praying in silence together. The metal groaning under the weight of the water. The ship bound to give in. It is only a matter of time. Then I think of the Italian traveler with his son under a false name. I hope he and his son are safe. Go on, Georgie. You'll be all right. I'll be on the next boat. Lawrence and Felix didn't sound hopeful. They seemed resigned to spending their final moments helping others. Women and children! Any women and children! Is there no one else? No one within reach. The officer says there's no time. They have to push off. He also said it's our last chance. That if we don't take those seats, they'll be empty and we'll be dead. I hope they find a way to help themselves too. I harbor no such hope for Thomas Andrews. The look in his eyes, I knew I'd never see him again. His very soul was defeated. And then I think of those who are most painful to think of now. Charlie stayed behind to help his crew, his friends in the boiler room. The water's rising too fast. Well, this is it, John. It's been an honor. Fair winds and following seas, my friend. He'll die a hero, but few will ever know his name or his sacrifice. Zeta was determined to find her nephew, whom I willingly left behind. Come on, James, push harder! And Mateo Knowing him, he's making the most of his last moments. Thought you could use a hand. You came back. I hope that somehow they're together. And that Zita knows how much I love her. I will never know. Perhaps I am better off not knowing. I think of all the people still aboard the Titanic, and decide to honor them. All I have of them are my memories, and I will hold those dear. I will never forget. The Titanic groans. Its nose is now completely submerged. Then comes the sound of explosions deep within the ship's great belly. The first funnel topples and falls into the thunderous clap. Moments later, the second. The aft of the ship is pinned high, its propeller hanging in the air like some tormented sea creature. The lights flicker and I hear screams. Then, the ship breaks in two, the bow disappearing underneath the surface. The back of the ship bobs for one long, precarious moment, and then, with a haunting grace, dives rather than sinks into the dark sea. It happens so fast. Waves pummel our lifeboat and then cease. The Titanic gone. No one speaks. I shiver and curl into myself. I'm not certain of what happens next. I know only that I wake to a loud boom, and another, and now I see the source, a bright rocket on the horizon. Below its flare, the shadow of a steamship. We are saved. But I am numb. I cannot muster any enthusiasm at my rescue. I feel apart from it all, an observer. Despite having our lives, we are all ghosts aboard the Karpyshyn, the steamship that rescued us. When the final lifeboat draws in, the whole of Karpyshyn grieves. We are so few. Of over 2,000 Titanic passengers and crew, only we are left. The next 6 months pass in a haze. Lainey and I survive by keeping busy. There is much to do. For the first weeks, I am certain that the police will knock on my door and that James's threat will come to fruition. It never happens. Instead, my sister and I are taken in by a shopkeeper who has heard of the disaster and has everyone in New York and seemingly the world. The shopkeeper and his wife give us shelter, jobs, until we can get on our own feet. I begin to doubt that I'll ever truly be on my feet again. For the first time in my life, I feel aimless, unable to move forward for looking behind. My days aboard the Titanic haunt me, the faces of those who are gone visit me in my dreams. I wake knowing there is something I must do. I just don't know what. In October, I receive an invitation to a screening of a film about Titanic disaster. The Angel of the Titanic, directed by none other than Zita's fiancé, Richard King. A release only 6 months after the sinking. Greed can be very motivating. A year from now, people may have forgotten us, but to strike while the tragedy is still hot. Hardly surprising. It was bound to happen, I suppose. And seeing the film might offer some closure. A small slip of paper falls from the invitation. It is handwritten by, and I'm shocked to see, none other than Richard King. Dear Adele, I hope you will join us for this remembrance of Zita. Most sincerely, Richard. It's settled then, I must go. A few weeks later, Helene and I find ourselves in a packed house. Titanic survivors, Hollywood luminaries, and seemingly 100 reporters are there. The film itself is mercifully brief, a quarter of an hour at most. An actress, who I soon realize is portraying Zita, dashes around a set that has none of the lavishness of the real Titanic. Menacing the iceberg has struck. The fake Zeta, along with her trusty nephew, heroically raced to help children and other women on the lifeboats. At the last minute, the fake James is grievously injured by men struggling to board the last boat. Zeta stays behind, sacrificing herself to remain by her nephew's side. I feel sick after. The film is almost completely inaccurate. But, remembering those last moments with Zeta tears open a still-healing wound. Eleni and I emerge from the screening into the theater lobby. It's been decorated to look like first-class lounge on the Titanic. Careful attention was paid to the details, down to the placement of the scones and bookshelves and a large grand fireplace. For a moment it feels as though the floor sways gently beneath me. Flash gunpowder, or powder, ignites all around us, and we are all rushed by a handful of reporters. One of the journalists seems particularly focused on me. What did you think of the film? You were Zeta's secretary. You were with her on the boat. Was the film realistic? Set the record straight. I raise an eyebrow. You really want to know? We want the truth, yes. Folks like Zeta and Serday and James Isler, were they the heroes the film suggests? The greatest hero was Charlie. The film makes it look like Zeta and James were the only heroes on the ship. That simply isn't true. The ship's crew, people like Charlie Stoke, gave their lives to keep the lights on, keep the pumps running. It's they who should be celebrated. The journalist scribbles frantically in his pad. I'm ready to say more, but he's already asking another question. A staggering 1,523 lives were lost. You are one of the only 75 survivors. Or 705 survivors. How does that make you feel? Depends on the day. Some days I feel fortunate. Other days I wonder why I'm here, and so many others are gone. Again, the journalist scribbles in his pad before I can think to elaborate. He's only doing his job, of course, but it feels ghoulish to speak about what happened this way, as if it could all be summed up in a sentence. Then he speaks again, and his question makes me want to protest. New stories have come to light recently, citing ignorance as the reason so many third-class passengers died. They either didn't believe the warnings of the crew or just didn't understand English. Any comment? The crew locked the gates. Those passengers died because some of the crew wouldn't let them pass. They kept the gates locked, blindly following orders instead of saving lives. Those gates were opened eventually. We have it on record. And how many passengers have had either given up on them or tried another impossible way? He replies swiftly, on intense interest and no compassion. So do you believe the crew is ultimately at fault for what happened? Not just the crew. You can't place the blame on a single group or person. A lot of terrible decisions led to this tragedy. The journalist nods and mumbles my words to himself while he writes. I see the way his eyes scan his notepad. He's attentive. If nothing else, I wonder how my statements will appear. There has been so many articles, so many investigations over the past months. Will one more make any difference? Will my opinions change anyone's view of the disaster? He's asking another question. I meet his gaze. One last thing, Miss Kerrim. Having lived through such a terrible ordeal, are there any parting thoughts you'd like to share with our readers? He lets his hand drop, and he watches me with a strange intensity. Any parting thoughts? How can I answer? Money isn't everything. I saw more wealth than I ever dreamed on the Titanic. I think of James's greed, Lena's dresses, the beauty of the Titanic's private promenade, Café Parisien. I saw people abandon their own families in pursuit of money. But money didn't make the rich any happier, and it certainly didn't save them. Valuable lesson. Thank you for your time, Miss Kim. Reaches out for my hand, shakes it, and lowers his voice. Your story matters, I promise. All the stories matter. He walks away. I expect I'll never read his article, and yet I can't help hoping that he's right. That one day, someone will read my words, and that someone will take the lessons we learned to heart. The tale of the Titanic will change people for the better. And yet it didn't. Eleni and I make our way past the journalist, Scattered around the room are a handful of familiar faces. Lena, Sabine, Lawrence, and Felix. You know some of these people, right? I observe them for a moment and then decide. Lena, Sabine, Lawrence, and Felix. I'm wondering if we'll get a chance to talk to all of them. If not, Sabine. Across the room to Sabine, she's dressed in evening attire. Looks quite unlike the woman I've come to know. Adele. She embraces me warmly. If she lays any blame on me for Zita's death, she hides it. Eleni interrupts to say hello. She grew quite fond of Sabine while aboard the Carpathia. I like your dress. It would have been très de monde to attend in maid's costume. She glances around and leans in conspiratorially. You and I could have planned a better party, none? Absolutely, I guess. The likes of which New York City has never seen. At the very least, we would have had magic or music. And magic too. As many dour faces, I want to grab some of these people and shake them. Don't they realize we're alive? We should be celebrating. I hear Eleni's sharp and take a breath. I don't need to see her face to imagine how shocked she must be. People are still grieving. Not everyone is ready to move on. They're still mourning. Mourning when they should be living. I lost my family to sickness. My parents, my brothers, watched them waste away one by one. I miss them, yes. Absolument. But mourn them? None. They are with God. Do not need my tears. They would want me to be joyful in my life. This is how I honor them. And Zita. It's not that easy. People can't just turn off their grief. It takes time. And it's different for everyone. I won't argue that point. I only hope that you'll see an end to your grief and soon. He grips both my hands in hers. Take care of yourself, Adele. Find your... Mother of Christ, I hate French. Joie de vivre. Now I promise, Richard King, a conversation. It's not one I'm looking forward to. With a quick peck to my cheek, Heleni's Sabine is off. Joie de vivre, joy of life. I like that. Ah, we can. Okay. We've barely begun to cross the room to Lena when she sees me and shrieks gleefully, hurrying over to greet us. Adele! Lena squeezes me so tight I can hardly breathe. She's positively glowing as she looks from me to my sister. Eleni, is it? We never really got to talk, but I was your sister's roommate. I've heard of you. Lena casts me a playful look. Ooh, what scandals has she confessed? I deny all of them. She puts forth a pious expression. Neither Helene nor I suppress our laughter. Adele, it really is a relief to see you. Right after I fell, when William ran off for help, I had a terrible thought. I thought I'd never see Adele again. I'm very happy that wasn't true. And look! She stretches out her leg and stomps it on the floor to demonstrate its sturdiness. Good as new. Lena turns to Eleni. Eleni, did your sister ever tell you I broke my leg during the sinking? While Adele was saving you, Charlie was saving me. I knew he would. There's no one I would have trusted more to help you. Her exuberance dimmed slightly. He was truly one of a kind. I nod, unable to speak for the lump in my throat. Lena waves a hand as though dismissing any unpleasantness. Enough of that. How have you been, Adele? Out of the corner of my eye, I see Helene squirming uncomfortably. About to burst, no doubt, with an opinion. A little lost. To be honest, I've been finding it a bit difficult to settle in. She barely leaves the shop, even when owners think she works too much. It's like she's avoiding life. Lena's eyes widen in surprise. Really? That hardly sounds like you, Adele. It's just a phase. It's nothing to worry about. I'll come out of it soon enough. I certainly hope so. The world shouldn't be denied Adele Karim. You're an amazing woman, one I very much adore or admire. Thank you. It's very kind of you to say, Lena. It's not kindness, it's truth, Adele. As far as I can tell, you're fearless. I aspire to have your courage one day. For a moment, I'm too stunned to speak. Lena looks pleased at the result. Now, if you'll excuse me. Lena reaches up and waves to William across the way. I'm getting a signal for, help. My friend William's rather hopeless at socializing. It was lovely seeing you, Adele, and meeting you, Helene. We embrace one last time, and after Lena's gone, Helene turns to me. I liked her. Of course you did. Talk to Lawrence and Felix. Glad you two made it alive. We are halfway to Lawrence and Felix when Lawrence's face lights up. Adele! Lawrence looks quite tired. Older. Much older. The two men, along with several others on their lifeboat, were the subjects of intense scrutiny following the sinking. A prominent newspaper reported that the documentarian bribed an officer to escape. Why didn't he go down with the ship, like a proper gentleman? The truth that he helped save others until the last possible moment, until his death would have been a pointless sacrifice, was apparently unremarkable. What do you think of all this, Adele? He gestures around the decor, the first-class lounge remade. I find it quite gruesome. They're exploiting tragedy. It's in horrible taste. Why would anyone want to pretend we're back aboard a doomed ship? It's not real to some of these people. They weren't there. They have no idea what it was like. And they'd rather sensationalize than learn the truth. There's a sharp tinge of bitterness in his words. Do you know what one reporter asked me? If I trampled children on my way to the lifeboat. Trampled. Trails on. Felix puts a hand on Lawrence's shoulder and squeezes it firmly. Even my wife, my family, I'm not certain they believe that I wasn't a coward. I think you're a hero. You helped us. You stayed behind to help others. I know the truth, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you, Adele. He needs to work. A new film will keep his mind occupied. Laney stands quietly at my side. Suddenly asks, You're a filmmaker? Lawrence brightens. Why, yes, I am. Lawrence transforms into a different person as he tells Helene about his past films. She listens raptly until at least another fan approaches him. We say our goodbyes, and I turn to Helene. I never knew you were so interested in film. I'm not really, but I thought it might help. I turn to look at her, feeling as though I'm seeing her for the first time. That was very kind. That was incredible, Helene. I'm sure you did help him. He shrugs, but I see the corner of her mouth curl into a smile. I saw them bringing out food. Can we eat something? I'm starving. We walk over to a small table where an assortment of hors d'oeuvres are laid out. Helene plucks up several deviled eggs in a row. Careful. At that rate, you'll choke on them. Helene swallows, preparing for a glorious retort. When her eyes widen, I turn to see Richard King. It's a shock seeing him in person. He's quite a bit taller than I imagined, with a confident air that draws all eyes. Is that... Yes. Do you think he knows about you and... I hope not. Richard bows when he's reached us. Adele and Helene, is it? Yes, that's right. I'm Richard King, Zeta's fiancé. My condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. King. I appreciate that. Truly. He shifts uncomfortably, and I can see he has something on his mind. Eleni, might I ask for a moment alone with your sister? Eleni looks at me questioningly. I nod. Of course, I'll just be here. Richard and I cross the room to find a quiet corner apart from the other guests. Well then, I've been informed that you were Zita's secretary. For a short time. Not for a very long time, a handful of days. Long enough to form an opinion. How was it, working for her? I heard she could be a bit difficult. I loved it. She was like no one else I've ever known. Forthright, strong, yet fair, and kind, too. Sounds like my Zita. What I knew of her, anyway. He winces and shakes his head. We had so little time together, I thought I'd have the rest of my life to get to know her better. And now I'm left with a handful of trinkets she left behind, some handwritten letters and the arcaniograms, sent from the Titanic by you according to her maid. He peers at me now with intensity that makes me shrink before his gaze. Zita clearly trusted you. Probably confided in you. Tell me, did she mean anything she said about us? Did Zita love me? Christiana, Lady Duff Gordon insists that she did, but she's my friend and I wanted to get an unbiased opinion. This one's tough. This one's very tough. So, this is why I'm hesitant about this, is do we leave him with a tainted memory by saying, I'm sorry, but no, she didn't love you. She lied to you. He has this image of her, and these other people are telling him things. Who am I? But someone only who knew her but a few days. Though she confided in us, the question is should we be the ones to tell him our opinion? I'm going to sit in the middle. No, I can't because of the arcaniograms. Man. Shit. I hate this. Alright, I'm gonna go with I don't know. Zita kept such things to herself. I can't really say what she felt or didn't feel. He kept him in the dark, he may never know the truth. Which is telling in itself. His jaw quivers slightly, and I wonder if the director might cry. But he straightens up. Thank you, Adele. You kept his love alive. See, I feel like if we would have lied or told him the truth, I think it would have killed his love. And then, again, who are we to tell him? Sensing an end to our conversation, a number of reporters swoop in and start assaulting Richard with questions. I back out of the crowd unseen. For a moment, I take it all in. The journalists, stars, survivors, and uneasy, absurd company. I can almost hear Matteo's harsh laugh in my ear. He would have been delighted. I find Helene talking to a young man I recognize from the ship, a steward, I think. She beckons me over. He knew Charlie. Then, turning to Stuart, she says, My sister and Charlie were good friends. Ah, Charlie was one of the nicest blokes I knew on that ship. He wouldn't abandon his post, even when they told him to. Sounds like Charlie. If you don't mind my asking, who was he to you? Saved my life. Helene's life, too. We would have never gotten off the ship without him. Sounds like Charlie. He repeats my words with a sad smile. He tells us he's visited Charlie's family, and that one of Charlie's sisters just had a child, and named him Charlie. The news is meant to comfort, but I can't help but think of how much richer the boy's life might be if he had known his angle. Charlie was as funny and as loyal as they come. There was this one time. Starts laughing at the memory. A couple of the crew, a stewardess and a trimmer. It's one of the pantry closets for their meetings. Charlie walked in on them once, down to the knickers they were. He didn't say a word about it, just asked them to pass the bread. His laughter rings high and loud. We can't help but laugh with him. That was Charlie. He fixes his bright eyes on me. You must have a story or two to tell. Go on, then. He reunited, me and my sister. Helene and I got separated when we boarded the ship, and I had no way to find her. And then I met Charlie. He didn't know me at all, but he helped me find her. That's the kind of person he was. We talked for a while longer, any piece of Charlie poured over. Remember. When the steward bids us farewell, Helene turns to me, tears in her eyes. Can we go soon? I don't know how much more of this I can bear, really. It is getting late. I'm glad we came, but it's strange seeing these people again, remembering when I met them. I feel like I'm not even the same person. We've all changed. What happened to us on the Titanic, it changed all of us. She gasps, as if struck by some grand realization. Do you think that's why you've been so stuck? Eleni. No, really. Maybe you're figuring out who you are now. Maybe. So, who is it? I think back, remembering who I was before I met James Essler. In a prison cell, I was idealistic, determined, yet seemingly trapped by my standing and circumstances. Now, I'm free. Who do you want to be? I've literally... This is a mood in and of itself. I have literally felt this way my whole entire life. Who do I want to be? And I am stuck. Because I don't even know who I am anymore. This is a hard question. I guess, in the grand scheme of things, I just want to be someone who matters. I don't want to be working in the bakery my whole life, or go back to the factories. I want to do something with people, or that people will remember. Like what? Film? Politics? Business? Activism? Politics and business are easily forgotten. But film and activism? Those are things that live on. Some of the greatest are Marilyn Monroe, Charlie Chaplin, and so many others. But activism, when you change the lives of people, you are truly never forgotten. I want to be someone who can make a real change in the world. A change for better. Like what you were doing in London? Only better. Come on. Let's go. I hesitate before leaving. I take in the lavish room and the guests and their finery. It isn't hard to believe that I'm back aboard the ship. That perhaps the Titanic still exists. That perhaps those who are gone are only waiting for me to return. My sister and I walk out into the cool November air, arm in arm. I steal one last look at the billboard before leaving the glamour, the tragedy, and the legacy of the Titanic behind me. Looking instead to the future, the hope of a new life. I want that message to sit there for a minute, in case you don't know what's going on. But unfortunately, Storyscape will permanently shut down on February 3rd due to Disney, yeah, we'll go with that. Disney acquiring the Fog Bank company and whatnot. Then they immediately sold the Fox Next company to Scopely, who makes the Star Trek Online game. as well as a few other games. However, Scopely did not want to acquire the Fogbank team because they do not do that kind of gameplay. I have put a tweet up on my Twitter hoping that the gaming industry will find jobs for these 60 plus people. That will, on February 3rd, which is in just a little close to a week, they will no longer have employment. Really suck. This also means that any and all stories or updates for this app will no longer be available. I would not delete the Storyscape app. You will most likely still be able to play it. You just will not be able to make in-game purchases. You most likely will not be able to watch ads anymore, which I've noticed a huge diminishing amount of ads no longer being available. I mentioned something about a week ago. And there's also a petition up for Disney to reconsider giving this company, this app, a chance. Because, remember, it officially released on October 22nd. And they really weren't given much time, were they? With 1.7 million downloads, it was going to be a competitor for other visual novels that had been in the game for 3 to 4 years. And again, they were never really given a chance. So, feel free to go to my Twitter and sign the petition if you'd like. Feel free to tweet at Disney. Feel free to show your support to the developers, because I'm sure that every single person in that company really needs a cheer up right now. Don't give them crap. It's not their place. They can't control this. I know some of you are angry. Be angry at Disney. Do not be angry at Fogbank or Fox Next. With that being said, I will continue to finish the stories that I've already started, and perhaps I will do the other stories as well. Providing I don't want to start any of the stories I haven't started. Providing that the Google Play or whatnot doesn't immediately delete this app once it's shut down. I'm hoping not. I don't think it will, but, just in case. Once again, thank you all for watching. You know what to do. With that being said, I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.